everyone. Hope that you're doing well. Today I have my notes here and we're going to be talking about protective as well as banishing herbs. So I'm going to cover the herb types, the different categories, which will include banishing, protective and cleansing, as well as protective herbs for dream states or astral travel. So we'll cover all of the different herbs that I have for that, and then also we'll talk about some different concerns and some different methods for using these. Okay, so we will just jump straight in and begin talking about banishing herbs, because this is typically going to be the first step if you're going to go through the full process. So banishing herbs, what is a great one, and I can't recommend more, is angelica. Not only is this an herb that will dispel negative energy, this is also going to add a lot of longevity to your spell, your working, your practice, whatever you want to call it. And then the next one that I have on my banishing list is going to be bay leaf. So this one is commonly known to be able to also dispel negative energy. So for our curse breakers, I have dill as well as stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is known to repel because of the stingers on it. These last two on my list I currently do not have, along with angelica, but I hope to have that soon, are elderflower and rue. So rue is known to repel the evil eye, so this is a very strong one to have in your collection. And then elderflower is known to banish evil spirits as well. So these are all of the most powerful banishing herbs that I could think to tell you about. And our next category is going to be cleansing and purification herbs. So I'll just list these off really quickly. First up, we're going to have basil. You may not expect that, but it definitely does have a purification quality to it. Other than that, we have echinacea root. The root of the plant is known to hold a protective quality, and since it is more astringent, this is typically going to be put in a purification category. That goes for a lot of these others as well. So that's rosemary, sage, and you can use different types of sage. White sage is traditionally recommended when you're going to be using it in any kind of ceremonial purposes like this, but I work with broadleaf sage and that works perfectly fine as well. The last one that I have in this category is going to be thyme. So for me, this definitely does have a cleansing quality to it. I know every time that I smell it, it lifts the mood. Our last category of protective herbs are going to be herbs that are great for use in protection with dreams, astral travel, or developing psychic abilities, or even psychic dreams. So these are going to be mugwort, lavender, chamomille. You can also use valerian and even marigold, but with marigold, make sure that you have an edible type because there are different types of this. So that is going to be all of the ones that I recommend for these three categories. Now we'll move on to some different ways that you can use these in different types of spell workings or purification rituals. So for these, I will read them off of my list here because I have several, and these are just a bunch of different ones that are, for the most part, beginner friendly. I'll let you know if they are not, but a great one, and these have to do with all different elements, so you can choose what you're comfortable with, by the way. The first one that I have here is to make incenses or to smoke cleanse with your herbs. You can also burn the herbs in a fire pit or a bonfire if you've done some kind of maybe binding ritual with your herbs. Basically make like a smudge stick and weave your intention into it however you want to do, and then burn it. Another good option, and this is one that I find is good if you need to do banishing or you find someone is really trying to curse or hex you. So this is going to be candles with herbs, and then you can also add a mirror into the mix to kind of return that back to the sender. So that one I would say is not very beginner friendly, because if you do not have a clear intention and clear bond with the products that you're using, I have heard instances of people maybe not having the best experiences and it backfired. It's good to know how to protect yourself in all different types of ways. Okay, another option is going to be herbal oil infusions. So you can use these oils as sort of an anointment oil, or you can even do the same thing with water. You can do different sigils on yourself or your home, around the doors, the windows, any kind of entryways. The next on this list is going to be simply just growing the herbs. So growing the herbs is going to be a natural ward in itself. So especially if you are doing that with intention, and you'll hear me probably say that a lot, Another way is to collect the herbs and hang them to dry in doorways, windows, places that you're going to be working. When you are drying and hanging the herbs, though, I do recommend kind of switching that out every so often, because dried herbs can hold a bit of stagnant energy. So I would say if you're working with things like bones, dried flowers, dried herbs, anything that has a sense of decay to it, I would store that into a jar to kind of keep that energy contained. So next we have water jars. So this is a really, really easy one. You literally just put your herbs in there and then fill it with water. You can add things like salt or citrus into the mix to make it extra cleansing. So another way to do this is a stovetop simmer pot. I really like these. They kind of have a double use. Not only are you working with whatever energy you need to, you're also usually making your house smell pretty good. So another one is room sprays. This one's relatively easy and safe for children and pets. So you can just do it like we were talking about earlier, just do a water infusion and use that as a room spray. Typically these are going to have a little bit of alcohol added in to make sure that it doesn't go stagnant. Some other ways, this is especially good for self-cleansing, obviously, is going to be ritual baths or showers. So this is a good thing to do before you begin the whole process of banishment and purification. But again, we'll go over the whole process of that here in just a moment. We're getting down to the last two here. So we have satchels. This is a great one. You can just fill a bag with herbs and either sleep with it or carry it around with you. And then the last one is a very obvious one, is going to be teas. I especially like this if you're going to be working with the protective dream herbs. And in case you're wondering, you can actually use fresh or dried herbs in your spell workings. Dried herbs are actually said to hold a more concentrated and direct energy, whereas fresh herbs are mainly good for things that have to do with smell because they have a more concentrated essential oil content. Now I'm going to read you my full banishment process here. So what I would definitely recommend to do is to, first of all, physically clean your home, your space, wherever needs to be worked at. So for an example, let's just say that you're using your home for the rest of this. So you need to physically clean your house, make sure everything is dusted, all of the dirt, grime, everything is cleaned out. And think about a big spring clean. And then once you've done that, you can go ahead and take a spiritual shower and bath. I know this sounds very mundane, clean your house and then take a shower. Whenever you begin the ritual bath part, that is when I would say begin working in your herbs, crystals, whatever you want to use to begin making sure that you are protected and that your energy is cleansed so that you can begin the banishment process. So once you've done that ritual cleanse for yourself, then you are going to move on to the actual banishment process. So first of all, you can do a protective circle. I don't typically work with those just because I don't find it to be very convenient, especially if you're going to be cleansing a whole home. But you can do that. It is ritual in certain practices, but that's completely up to you. Something that is in the same note of that, it is totally optional, but I do agree with and I do like to do is to wear a veil. So this is just another symbol of protection over yourself when you do begin this process. So to begin the banishment process, you can choose any of these methods. I do think that smoke is such a great way to banish and cleanse. That would be my number one recommendation if you're able to do that. Once you've done your banishment method, and we went over all of the different types, you can pick and choose whatever you want to do. But say it's an extra strong one and you've just done your candle and reflection spell. So you've done that. Next, what you'll want to do is purify and cleanse the space now that you've gotten rid of the negative energy. So for the banishment method, that would have been those banishing herbs: angelica, bay leaf, dill, stinging nettle, rue, elderflower. So you would have wanted to use those herbs for that first step of banishment. And then for the second step of the purification and cleansing, you'll want to choose something and use sage, dill, rosemary, thyme, or echinacea root, or whatever you find is going to be most convenient for you. So, and again, you can use whatever method that you want to do these with, whatever feels right and feels like it clears out the space that you need it to. Now that's pretty much it. You just want to repeat this as needed. So here are a few options. You can do this monthly, seasonally, whenever you feel the energy has gone stagnant or just feels bad overall. Some signs that you may have been cursed or that you may want to do this is that you have a lot of bad luck, nightmares, like you're feeling watched, or like you've been having a lot of mood swings, or your health is going downhill and you just can't really explain it. Other than, you should, of course, make sure you're taking care of yourself, go to the doctor when needed, all of that. So that's pretty much the whole banishment process. It's a whole lot of cleaning and just making sure that the energy of the space is moving and that there's not stagnant energy or other types of things going on. I do have some additional just tips and overall warnings here. So, of course, always research an herb completely before ingesting, burning it, spraying it, touching it. You just need to make sure that it's not going to be toxic in any way before you're putting it in your space. Next is to practice fire safety when you are burning anything, even when you're using candles. So when you are doing a smudge stick, make sure that you carry a bowl or something underneath it to catch any ashes that may be falling, or so that you can sit it down in case it does go up in flames and you can't control it. Be sure to keep children, pets, or the just in general unknowing out of harm's way. So keep toxic plants up to where they cannot reach them, grab them, eat them. And then you'll also want to make sure if you're doing those things like smoke cleansing that they're out of there too, because of course in general, we don't want our pets and children breathing in smoke. And a lot of these herbs and stuff, like it's okay in a little bit, but repeated use can actually be a little bit toxic. So just make sure that you're researching and doing what you feel is the healthiest for you and your surroundings. Now we're going to move on to the tips that I have for you. So first and foremost, whenever you are doing anything in your practice, have very clear intentions, and then it's also going to serve you if you can bond with the items that you're using. So especially, I would say grow your plants if you can, because this has been so helpful to me, and you'll feel such a lot stronger of a connection if you're able to do things like this. So if you can't grow your plants, I would suggest maybe going and trying to forage. That would be another great way. Whenever you're done with your working, you can go ahead and put the herbs back in the earth. You can compost them, dig a hole and put them in there if you feel like it's really bad. So do whatever feels necessary to you in that nature, but as long as it's a natural product, I would say the best way to get rid of the discard from this is just going to return it to the earth and let that naturally disperse. Last thing that I wanted to add to this list is to not be afraid to protect yourself with these methods. I have never had anything negative happen while I was trying to cleanse the space, so don't be afraid that you're going to go sage your house and then all hell is about to break loose. So don't worry about that. You should be fine. I think it would be super, super rare for something like that to happen, and then at that point it's probably above your means anyway, at least for most of us. Okay, well that is going to be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed my advice on protective herbs and banishing. So if you would like to hear more things like this, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great day. Bye!